Mr. President, the strengthening of Azerbaijan as an independent country increases the resentment and anger of its enemies and rivals. We were further convinced of this by your commentary. The processes carried out by Western circles could likely be described as a form of Cold War at this stage. My question will be about the new state budget of Azerbaijan. To be more specific, we are talking about the funds allocated for security and military issues. Just yesterday, Armenian military units once again fired at Azerbaijani territories. This is yet another provocation. How will these new expenses and those funds allocated for security issues serve to prevent revanchist tendencies from emerging in our Western neighbors, especially in terms of changing their constitution and abandoning claims to their neighbors' territories?
Yes, you are absolutely right. I have already stated that the consequences of the Second Karabakh War and the anti-terror operation should be taken very seriously in Armenia. The ongoing armament of Armenia is, of course, a new threat factor for the South Caucasus. I have already said this, and I want to say it again, that we cannot simply watch this as observers and do nothing. I have also repeatedly stated this to the Armenian leadership, that this may create a new threat. At the same time, those who seem to be standing behind Armenia today and inciting them to new provocations and sabotage against Azerbaijan will most likely not stand behind them until the end, just as they could not stand in 2020 and beyond. Not because they do not want to stand, but because Azerbaijan simply will not provide these opportunities. Therefore, a significant part of the state budget of Azerbaijan will be spent on military and security issues. I have already said this once. We are spending 4 billion manats on the restoration of Karabakh and East Sangiza, and 8.4 billion manats on resolving military and security issues. It could have been completely different, because Armenia's arms race forces us to attract financial resources to military issues other than the main ones. I also stated that Armenia cannot compete with us in the arms race. However, we must also take into account one issue here. These weapons are given to Armenia either for free or in the form of loans. Those loans are also written off after a certain period, and also from the European Union's notorious peace facility. Notorious, because the peace facility should actually be used for peace purposes. Their peace facility is aimed at armament. The first payment was made from there, and according to the information we have, this is not the last payment. Another disturbing fact is that in April of last year, for the first time in history, a very strange cooperation platform was created. America, the European Union, and Armenia. As you know, the US Secretary of State, the President of the European Commission, and the Foreign Minister, and the Prime Minister of Armenia met in Brussels and actually reached an agreement on a new cooperation. According to the information we have, the agreement reached before this meeting also included a military component, but after that it was officially removed from there, but de facto it remains there. This, in fact, excluded both the European Commission and the United States of America from the Azerbaijan-Armenia normalization process. We have already informed them about this. If any party takes sides, it cannot be a fair mediator. That is why the request of the US Secretary of State remained in the air last month, and Azerbaijan did not agree to a trilateral meeting. In addition, as you know, many meetings were held in Brussels at the initiative of the Presidents of the European Commission and the Council of the European Union. This has now also been stopped. So we are in favor of a bilateral negotiation format. And of course, Azerbaijan will defend its position as a party to this issue. Arming Armenia will simply lead to new tensions. We do not want this. We want peace. We want the war page to be closed. However, we see that both Armenia itself and its new patrons do not want this. They live with ideas of revenge, and Armenia is actually a source of threat to the region. The independent Armenian state is actually a fascist state. Because if this country has been led by proponents of fascist ideology for nearly 30 years, they have shaped this country the way they did. Now look, the racist and fascist statements of the first president of Armenia are as ugly as they are dangerous. He portrays ethnic cleansing as a source of pride, bragging about the expulsion of Azerbaijanis from their historical ancestral lands. This video, as they say, has now been made public. But of course, they knew this in Armenia. Armenia's allies and supporters, of course, knew and shared these views. The 30-year occupation policy against us is not simply a product of Armenia, but a joint product of Islamophobic, Azerbaijanophobic, racist, xenophobic circles, and representatives of foreign countries who are in solidarity with it. We are neighbors with such a fascist state, and the threat of fascism is not going away. Therefore, fascism must be destroyed. Either the Armenian leadership will destroy it, or we will. We have no other choice. Again, 30 years of occupation, the suffering of our people, the Kajoli genocide, the ravaged and devastated Karabakh. All this is before our eyes. Who can guarantee that this will not happen again? No one. Because the first three leaders of Armenia are proponents of fascist ideology. The current leader of Armenia, as I said, now wants to make a dove of peace out of himself. But look, no one wants to recall his speeches in 2018 to 2019 now. Even its friends in France do not want to give it up. So this ideology lives there. And its carriers are not just the current Armenian opposition, but the Armenian government. I want to say again that we cannot just watch this as observers. Armenia must immediately stop arming. France and other countries that provide it with weapons must terminate and cancel these contracts. The weapons that have already been sent to Armenia must be returned. This is our condition. Let them take it as they please. I give my word, they know it. And those behind them know that if we say something, then we are already taking this issue very seriously. I hope that all our conditions regarding the peace treaty will be accepted, because there are no extraordinary issues in these conditions. The abolition of the Minsk Group, the amendment of the constitution. Without these, a peace treaty is impossible. If Armenia does not need a peace treaty, we do not need it either. We can live and conduct our own policy without signing it. In other words, I would still advise the Armenian side to weigh everything up, including geopolitical changes in the world. Their close friends are being shamefully removed from the political scene. Yesterday, news came that Mr. Trudeau, a close friend of Armenia and Pashinyan, also had to resign. This country, which was very anti-Azerbaijani during and after the Second Karabakh War, is not far from France. Yesterday, news came that Mr. Trudeau, a close friend of Armenia and Pashinyan, also had to resign. This country, which was very anti-Azerbaijani during and after the Second Karabakh War, is not far from France.